recent years with a former roommate and coworker, Miss Sandra Webb. Now, Sandra said when she first met Diane, it was because the roommates had gotten everyone together, including this new girl who had just been hired at CNS Bank, who they also wanted to become their new roommate. And to strike up conversation with Diane, Sandra asked her, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And Diane replies with, "Oh, I was recently hired to fill Mary's position there at the bank." According to Sandra, who works at the bank and should probably know that she was just hired to fill the position, learning this made her really upset. She did not like the fact that this person was hired to fill Mary's position. I don't know why that is, but she said it just kind of immediately, her walls came up and she was just like, I don't like this broad. With that information, we're going to jump backwards to Sandra and Mary's friendship, because it's worth noting that Sandra said that she didn't like Mary's fiance, Roy. She had quite a few complaints, quite a few opinions about Roy. Sandra said that when Mary announced her engagement to Roy that everyone was shocked, and she claims Mary's engagement to Roy actually severed her and Mary's friendship. Sandra also claims that at one point in time, Roy slashed all the tires on her car. Okay, so now the weekend of Mary's disappearance, Sandra claims that several of us had planned a trip to the mountains that weekend, but decided not to go because we just didn't feel right leaving town. However, they ended up going anyway. She also says that in the same breath, they didn't think anything bad had happened. She doesn't remember what she thought, she doesn't remember her exact emotions, but they were scared. And I feel like that's all very conflicting information to give in the same string of thoughts to an interviewer. So, according to Sandra, they all go to the mountains, the people had planned the trip, and as soon as they come back, she was immediately accused of murdering Mary. So, now we're going to go forward again. So, Diane is hired to replace Mary. She moves in with the roommates, and she's immediately disliked by Sandra. But eventually, Sandra and Diane actually become friends. Sandra even asks Diane to be in her wedding. And while at the wedding, Sandra and her husband introduce Diane to their friend named Tom. So Sandra and Diane are now friends. Diane and Tom, Sandra and her husband's friend that they introduced Diane to, get engaged sometime around New Year's of 1966. And subsequently, from that engagement, there was a fallout between Diane and